Hello, and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin English, founder of The Silver Edge. Our mission at The Silver Edge is to inspire men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond to live their strongest, healthiest, most fulfilling lives. In this podcast, we share stories of amazing individuals who are doing just that, to help motivate you to become the healthiest version of yourself, regardless of your age. And now, on to today's podcast. Hello, my guest today is Joe White. Joe is a 53-year-old adventure training instructor, fitness ambassador, a husband, and a father. He's also a cancer sufferer. In 2014, Joe was diagnosed with bowel cancer and had an operation to remove part of his bowel, liver, small intestine, and finally his entire pancreas. Then last year in 2019, he received news that he had a secondary tumor on his liver and was put on chemotherapy tablets for the rest of his life. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good, thanks. I appreciate you coming on. Well, we all have to overcome difficulties and obstacles in our lives. It's part of the human condition. But your response to these difficulties is nothing short of heroic. You're very active on Instagram, encouraging people to get outdoors, get their bodies moving with your trademark slogan, keep pushing, don't ever give up. And I certainly want to dig into your story and talk about your new initiative, the 365 Days of Action. But first, can you give us a little sense of what you were like as a child? What kind of a boy were you? Were you active? Did you play sports?
Yeah, I played a lot of sports. I was very, very lucky where I lived in the countryside. So not far from where I am now at the moment, near Stonehenge. A really good childhood, brothers and sisters to play with, good sports facilities, and just enjoyed life.
Great. So active as a child, playing sports. And what about through school? Did you play any sports in school? Were you active, outdoorsy?
Yeah. In the school where we were, this football, so soccer for you guys, rugby, all the sports that we were allowed to do, everything and anything. To be honest with you, I probably spent more time doing sport than I did in lesson time. Pleasurable, my teachers would say to me, we've had enough of your chatting. I think you deserve to go to the PE department and do some work there. So I spent quite a bit of time in there.
Okay, great. And then after school, I saw online that you've done some work as an adventure trainer. Talk a little bit about that. How did you get into that line of work, and what did that entail?
Well, working as an adventure trainer, I've been very lucky working with the military and working with the School of PT, so the Army School of Physical Training, and teach adventure training from there, all sorts of sports. And I was very lucky to spend a lot of time teaching scuba diving. So I spent most of my time outdoors. So for the last 25 years, doing all sorts of stuff like that, mainly scuba diving. Outdoor pursuits nowadays is climbing throughout different things and trying climbing, going right into everything. Most sports that you can think of, we've partaken, should I say.
Great. Well, so it sounds like you've done a lot of scuba diving. How did you get into scuba diving? What got you into that?
Well, I was working as a lifeguard part-time, and then went up to the PT school, got a job up there as working as a lifeguard, then went on from there to be an instructor of all different sports through the PT school, and then carried on. And there was a slot in there to do some adventure training. So we're teaching the military diving. So we're teaching the military recreational diving. So I spent 15, 20 years just doing that, having a great time and getting paid to do something that I love to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you've been healthy and active all of your life. I first came across you on Instagram, and one of the first posts I saw, you were outdoors, which I think you solely are outdoors with your exercise regimen primarily. You were doing some dips with what looked like a pretty heavy kettlebell tied around your waist. And somebody from off screen was pushing some signs into the screen as you were doing it. And basically it was talking kind of through what we said in the intro, that you were diagnosed with cancer. You had some operations. And then again, last year in 2019, you found out that the cancer had come back. Why don't you talk a little bit about leading up to that? Sounds like you were obviously very healthy, very active. Talk a little bit about that illness and how you dealt with that at the time.
Well, we originally went to have a blood test in 2014 for being, I think it was 45 or late 40s, and our local GP said, "Right, Joe, it's about time that you had a blood test," because I was on some different tablets I think I wanted some tablets for something, I can't remember what it was. I took a blood test. This was on the Monday, and I was out training and just driving from one place to another place, and the GP phoned me, says, "I need to see you straight away." I said, "Okay." It's obviously not good news. He says, "No, it could be," cut a long story short, "it could be bowel cancer." That's what we found out straight away. Within 3 weeks, I was in hospital, having some tests done and some biopsies done, and having some bits and bobs looked at, should we say. And they just said, "Right, this is not good," and then went from there. So it was really, really quick, simple. They found out. The NHS were fantastic, and they sorted me out. I went in for the operation. And my wife dropped me off, and I was very, very reasonably fit, I would say. And I weighed at 84k when I went in. 11 days later, I was 73k with lots of body parts. Yeah, good diet, many ways, strong diet. And then went from there. So that was 2014. And then obviously trying to get better, trying to get fit within. My wife's a strong lady, very strong lady, Juliet. And the day I came out of hospital after 11 days, I had the choice of having a commode and things like that. My wife said to me, "There's the stairs, up you go. We don't need a commode." And that was it. And I never looked back. And so she picked me up, sorted me out, fed me, looked after me. Within 3 weeks, I was up walking. 6 weeks, I was running. So I was pretty lucky. So that went quite well. And I came off the chemotherapy in 2018 and then went in for a routine test, as I'm obviously going for quite a lot. And they said, "Oh, we found something, Joe. We need you to come in." So within the time of me coming in from finding out the scan, I went into the office and he says, "Go straight back on chemo. That's it. You've got another tumour." And that's where it's been since. So I'll be on those for the rest of my life. I may be operated on in the near future, but hopefully I won't have to be.
Yeah, that's obviously quite a roller coaster of emotions, I imagine. Can you talk a little bit about what you were going through emotionally, personally, mentally during that first diagnosis, and then maybe how that impacted your family as well? I know you're married, you have kids.
Yeah, it was a massive impact on the family, but I didn't realize how much of an impact it was on my family until later on, and I got over it. And it was through them that they were so strong that kept me strong, I think. Emotions were strong. I sent a letter to my wife. Well, I didn't send that. I handed a letter to my wife on the day of the operation because I didn't think I was coming back out of the operation, to be honest. And luckily, she didn't believe it. And here I am to say, carrying on strong. So the emotions were quite high. I went in fit, and that was my worst fear. And it could have been, and my wife said to me, "Well, you could have gone either way. You could have been very, very depressed, or you could just have to kick yourself and get yourself going." And I think that's it for everybody, really. You just need to push yourself. Otherwise, you could get depressed, especially if you've been reasonably fit beforehand in any of these things. And I've had it. I'm very, very lucky in what I've had because many people don't survive, do they?
No, they don't. Yeah. And I think that's key what you just said about the attitude during all of this. Looking at specifically your Instagram and your YouTube, you're very, very inspirational. I think pretty much your tagline at the end of every single one of your posts these days is never give up, keep pushing, never give up. Is that right? Yeah. Right. So talk to us a little bit about where does that fortitude come from? Is that something that, maybe as a kid or as an adult in the adventure training and training soldiers, where does that kind of fortitude and that attitude come from?
The attitude definitely comes with working with the military, I think, but just for me personally, just to keep yourself pushing. I was never going to tell anyone about the cancer. And so I've had the Instagram account about 16 months, 17 months, and a couple of friends of mine and my wife says, "Look, you ought to say to people what's happened, and perhaps it'll influence somebody. So that's where the 365 days has come from, really, and having enough bottle to be able to say, look, I've had this, had that, because I'm not really an outgoing person. I don't mind speaking to people or teaching people, but not being the front of everything, I would say. So going with that, we moved on. And so I had a saying all the time. So I was probably in the back of my head, I was going to bring something out about the cancer. So I started that saying. I've always kept it in my head anyway and always done it. I've always pushed hard and made everyone I work with push hard. So that's where it came from. Keep pushing and don't ever give up. And so hence, when I came out and told everyone about the cancer, that's why.
Yeah, that's a very inspirational slogan, obviously. Now, it looks like almost all of your workout is outdoors. And it sounds like, given your background, that's probably your preference. Did you start in a gym and move outdoors, or in fact, I see a lot of your posts where it looks like it's inclement weather. It looks cold. I see some of them where it's rainy, and you don't seem to mind. You're getting after it.
I think it's years and years of being underwater and being outside all the time in freezing cold temperatures. It doesn't matter to me. And plus, I live in the UK, so I've got no choice. We always carry in our cars with us wherever we're going, or if we're out in our backpacks. There's always got to be waterproofs, a bit of sun cream on the hope, and a pair of sunglasses. The sunglasses are mainly for the wind and for the rain, never really for the sun.
Right. Right. Yeah. You have almost trademark sunglasses on in most of your posts there, I see. Well, let's back up a little bit and talk. I want to talk to you a little bit about just on the fitness side of things. You're obviously very fit, and I think that we can see why. You've been active your entire life and taking very incredible care of your body. What are your thoughts on diet? And maybe what you're eating now, and kind of how that's maybe evolved over time?
I think more so because I was also a CrossFit instructor as well. So you did quite a bit of that beforehand. That's really cool. And I see that you're a CrossFitter as well, so you love that.
Mm-hmm.
Before I went in for the operation, the guys in the gym who I was using quite a lot, they really, really helped with pushing me forward, getting me really, really fit as well as my own fitness. But diet-wise, obviously even more so now. No sugar whatsoever. If I have any sugar at all, it's obviously natural sugars. I really, really try hard because it's coming from my personal doctors that were saying that obviously sugar, as we well know, is a real influence towards cancer cells, which many people might not know, not realize, or not believe, but it is, especially the white sugars, which aren't good for us at all. So I really try and keep the fats down as well. I eat a varied amount. So realistically, caveman, as you would do, as originally was stated. So the caveman diet for me most of the time. I try not to eat so much meat all the time because it takes a long time to break it down. I have to constantly take creon, which breaks down its enzymes. So because of my pancreas is gone, I have to take the creon all the time. So every meal I take the tablets to match the food that I'm eating. It's quite hard to describe how many are. They're not harmful to anybody if anybody took them, but it's just quite a lot of tablets. So hence I watch my food more so.
And is it fair to say that you're eating with caveman or paleo? I'm guessing you're eating primarily whole foods and avoiding processed foods.
100%. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. Similar to yourself.
Right.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep. Very, very good. And what are your thoughts on recovery? Given that you're obviously pushing really hard, what do you do to help your body recover? And what are your thoughts maybe on sleep as a part of a recovery strategy?
Recovery is so important, and to give ourselves time for rest. It looks like I'm doing so much, but clearly in between the days, I am resting in between. So my sessions range from up to 4 to 5 hours a day training, in between doing different stuff. It sounds impressive, but it's not always hard. So a lot of that is included in stretches, but also some good sleep. I like to get a good 8 hours if I can. I don't sleep brilliantly, but I do like to have a little bit of a rest. I do train most days of the week, but I do tend to have a day off, but I'm still doing other things.
Got it. And do you have a workout plan or a training regimen? I see you do a lot of things that look more like rucking and probably preparing for some of this mountaineering and climbing stuff. But you're also doing a lot of what looks to be, pretty much functional movement, strength training as well.
It is. It's all functional movement stuff. Based on the functional movements that we've got. So just always covering a squat, a push up, plank, lunges, just all the basic stuff. So the 6 basic moves for me, and just using those. So we're going through squat, plank, push up, lunges, pull up. Covering all those, covering a bridge to match them all, so they cover all exercises. Sometimes weighted, sometimes not.
Gotcha. And folks listening to this can certainly go and look at your Instagram account. You do a great job of not just showcasing those movements, but actually instructing through those. You can see that you're kind of an instructor at heart.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't ever leave you, does it?
Maybe not. Yeah. Or no, I suppose, fortunately for those of us watching.
Yeah, definitely. I do like to do, but some people don't know how to do anything, and some people are afraid to ask. And I think the older we get, we just think, well, we'd rather watch something rather than be listened to. Some people find it embarrassing to ask people. I've never been embarrassed. If I don't know anything, I would definitely ask somebody how to do it. Or nowadays, we've got YouTube, haven't we? Which is fantastic to some degree. It's sometimes better to be taught by somebody. That's why the gyms are there with professionals in it, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, what I really wanted to talk to you about is your initiative that you are kicking off. And I believe this starts in May of this year. We're recording this in mid-April 2020 for anybody listening in the future. Why don't you talk a little bit about your 365 days of action, where that idea came from, what it is, and what people can do to get connected with you?
Okay, so the 365 days of action, it started off as an idea. I wanted to raise some money, definitely for cancer research, but also for mountain rescues. I spend a lot of time in mountains, clearly, and it's all voluntary stuff, and so is cancer research. But also on the military point of view, to help out, a lot of guys are left on their own with combat stress, post-traumatic stress disorder, and all sorts of things, and mental issues, and it is a big thing that we seem to avoid quite happily, not just with military life and civilian life. So I wanted to raise some money for those 3 charities and get some money. So then the idea was dreamt up, the action for 365 days. So the whole idea of it is to do 22K a day. So every single day, so 13 mile a day, whether I do it. So sometimes, as long as that adds up and I get the end result, which is written down here. You can just hang fire for a second. It is to walk, run, and climb a distance of 8,000 kilometers, get an elevation of 50,000 meters, climb and scramble the 100 best UK scrambles. So Ireland, England, Wales, Scotland as well. Any of those. Also to climb Mont Blanc, which is 4,810 meters, Mont Elbrus, which is 5,642 meters, and Kilimanjaro, which is 5,895 meters. The charities that we're raising it for is a cancer research, mountain rescue, and obviously combat stress. That's who we're saving it for. So £365,000 a target. At the moment, we're on 1,500. So we've got a long way to go.
Right.
A year, and it does start on the 1st of May. The reason it starts on the 1st of May is because of my eldest son's birthday, and they were both born in May, and they've been inspirational, actually, very, very helpful all the time, helping us out, which are great. How to get hold of us from these is on Facebook. It's www.facebook.com, Old Boys Training. And also on Instagram, it's Old Boys Training. And we also have a YouTube spelt Old, then Boys, then Training. Everything else is added together from where we can see. Everything else, we also, the donation page, if anybody's very interested and can help us out, which would be fantastic, is www.virginmoneygiving.com/365 days of action. Any help will be much appreciated. But what we really need, Kevin, is people to be on there on social media, gets out on social media. So what the whole idea originally was, the 365 was to get 365,000 people. And then very near the end of the challenge was the whole idea was them to ask everyone put £1 in.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because especially times are hard now at the moment with this COVID. which is very difficult for people to go out and do these things. And we were actually thinking of putting it on hold, but I refused to put it on hold because I can still get out and do those miles and get that meterage in.
I think that suits your personality very well. The adversity of, hey, here you're going to launch this campaign in the middle of the COVID Corona crisis, and you do have the option of postponing, but you're going to keep pushing. You're not going to give up, and we're going to get this thing kicked off, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then for folks listening, for that Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the website, I'll put all of that in the show notes. So certainly we have a call to action for all of us to go there, follow these accounts, and then let's make sure that we're spreading this message as well.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant.
All right. So I also want to ask you, because I think that this is important, what would you say to people out there, especially maybe our age or older, that are facing a serious medical condition right now? You've obviously been through a lot. What advice would you give to somebody who's recently got a life-altering diagnosis?
I know it might sound pretty corny. When you've got that, you've just got to, there's two ways you can pick of doing this, and I hope you pick the first one, is you just must push through, find something you want to do, find something, a target that you think you never could do, whether it would be run 5K, walk 5K, crawl 5K. Just do anything you can do. Set your mind on something, which really, really helps. A target is fantastic. Also, I found a lot of people as well, Kevin, are too afraid to go to the doctor before they find out something, especially our age, as they were going through. Don't be afraid. Go and have an MOT, have a checkup. If you think there's something wrong, please go and get it checked out. The sooner you get it checked out, the more likely they can get it sorted out.
Yeah, that's certainly solid advice. And I suppose that being fit is preferable to not being fit in times like this, right? When you're coming up against illness and trying to recover from illness, there's got to be a lot to be said for, it sounds like you have a very healthy diet, a very active lifestyle, and you've chosen to certainly keep that up.
Definitely, that was 100%. Being fit really, really helped me. So once I found out the diagnosis and I knew when the operation was going to be, I upped my training by even more so. Actually, probably nearly doubled my training, because the fitter I was going into the operation, the quicker my recovery. Yeah. And as the consultant said, that they should have done some tests and that on me afterwards, and done some bio stuff on me afterwards, because there's no way you should recover that quickly and be able to do. They said I'd never be able to do a handstand push-up again. So within 4 months, 6 weeks. Sorry, my wife just shouted at me. 6 weeks handstand push-ups.
Wow. Yeah, that certainly is impressive. And
they were.
And how are you feeling these days? I mean, what you have out here in front of you in the next 365 days, those challenges you just rattled off. How is your health? How are you feeling? Obviously, you're up to the task.
Well, I just had a message. Actually, funny you should say that. I had a phone call about half an hour before you phoned me from the Southampton General Hospital, the cancer unit, and they said my scan was looking really good. So I have a scan every 3 months, and I normally would have to wait until the 28th of May to find out the results, because of what's going on at the moment. And they said they should actually phone me. So there you go. So it's going well at the moment. The chemo tablets are working well. I'm feeling fit, feeling strong. I don't ever feel bad. I don't feel sorry for myself. I don't feel sorry. I feel sorry for other people, because when we've been in there for so long, going in and out the hospital and going in and out the wards where you see people, there's obviously the last, is it 5 or 6 years? I can't remember now. However, it's long it's been, since 2014, from that, or 6 years going in and out of that hospital. And you've seen people that are looking worse and worse, and some people are getting healthy. So I've got it really lucky, very lucky with what I've got.
Well, you certainly are an incredible inspiration, and I want to encourage, again, everybody to go check out Joe's Instagram, his Facebook, his YouTube. A lot of incredible information there. Joe, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for coming on. You are certainly an inspiration, and we're all going to be watching you over the next 365 years, and certainly know that we're here cheering you on.
Thank you very much. All days. 365 years. I'd love to live there.
365 days of action. That's right.
Perfect.
Well, that's our show for today, folks. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends and please consider subscribing and giving us a 5-star review. All the show notes and much more are available at our website at silver-edge.com. That's silver-edge.com. So until next time, stay strong.